You know, it's interesting. I was reading in the newspaper this morning, and they say that Memorial Day in southern Arizona marks the beginning of summer. I think for many of us, Memorial Day marks something very different. When I think about Memorial Day, I think back to a experience I had in Iraq. I was supposed to fly all over the theater of operations in Iraq. And there was the only way you could get around normally was through a Black Hawk helicopter or a Chinook helicopter. And I remember I had to go on a mission to go to Fallujah from Baghdad. And I drove from Camp Slayer to Baghdad International Airport, and we got stuck behind a convoy on the way over there. So when I finally arrived, the flight had already left, and I was unable to go. I knew my commander would be pretty angry with me when I got back. The flight was to go from Warhorse all the way to Fallujah, and we heard that night that a helicopter had been shot down over Warhorse. There is not a day that goes by that I don't think about how things would have been different if I caught that flight that day. And I think there's a lot of veterans here today that think about that all the time as well. Why there are so many that you fought and served with who never made it home, and you did. It's interesting because we have a lot of holidays in this country. We have Veterans Day that honors those who served in our armed forces. We have the 4th of July, which honors the birth of this country. We have Christmas, Easter, which are basically honoring our faith. But it is Memorial Day. It is left to Memorial Day to be the reminder of the cost of greatness in this country. So the question is how do we live up to the sacrifice of those who gave it all? I would say that if they die because that is the cost to keep this country free, then we must endeavor to keep this country free. If they died because they simply wanted to keep their buddies safe, then we must endeavor to be the best friend that we can be. And if they die because that is the cost of greatness in this country, then we must endeavor to keep this country great. On Memorial Day, I'm always reminded of a story of a young man who grew up in the Midwest. He was the son of a farmer, and he grew up on a little farm in the Midwest, and he loved reading, he loved books, and his family was so poor that they couldn't afford to buy books for him. So he would borrow books from all the other farmers in the county. And his favorite book was a book of the life and times of George Washington. And it was a book of woodcuts, images from the life of George Washington. And there was an image in that book that he loved the most. And he used to read this book late at night by candlelight. And one night, he woke up in the morning, and there had been a big storm. And it completely waterlogged that book, completely submerged it in water. And the book was completely destroyed. And when he opened it up, page after page was ruined, except for the last page. The last page, there was an image of George Washington kneeling before a gravestone that represented those who died at Valley Forge. And there was an inscription underneath that woodcut. It was just 9 words. And those words would resonate with him for the rest of his life. That these men shall not have died in vain. And Abraham Lincoln, 40 years later, would write those words in the Gettysburg Address. That's what this day is all about. That these men shall not have died in vain. So as you go home tonight, I would ask you to think about those words and think what this holiday is all about. And live the best life you can live. Do what you can to keep this country free. And do what you can to keep this country great. Thank you very much.